And we're back. Hey guys, it's Two here, host of Two Cents. And I know we're not very far into the podcast episode arc, but this topic was really important to me. So I wanted to do it right away. And so here we go. This isn't a hot take, it's kind of a special edition. And it's something that I really wanted to talk about. And it's very personal to me. And I didn't think it was going to be this hard, but also uh, it's a hard topic to talk about. So I'm just going to put it out there as earlier this summer, my grandmother passed away. Her name was Nguyen Thanh Thum, and she died on July 3rd. And she was 99, and she was a mother of 10, which is shocking, but very normal back in the day. And she was my grandma. She was my mom's mom, and she died of COVID because she was living in a nursing home at the time. And I think, what we've all learned from reading about nursing homes being a hot spot, and also June, July, August has kind of been, the peak number of cases for us here in Texas. So I don't want to say it was inevitable, but her being 99 and her living in a nursing home and it being a hot spot, and for weeks or a couple months, it wasn't a hot spot, or they didn't see any cases at her nursing home specifically. But I think it kind of was maybe a domino effect, at least that it ended with her, or that it got to her. And so, she has lived a very, very long life, and for a couple of years, I think, less lucid, I think. And so I want to walk away thinking that it was for the best and it was her time to go. And I think it was. But I think when we think about death for anyone that's closest to us, it's very unbelievable. And that you hope that it doesn't happen to you, or that you were more prepared, or that you knew when it was going to happen. But I think looking back, if I had all of those things, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference, because I think it just hits you like a ton of bricks, no matter what kind of facts that you have, just because they're so close to you. And it was a weird time, because her funeral was also on Zoom and on Facebook Live. So that's very 2020. And I don't know if that's a thing that we'll see in the future, but it's definitely the first time I've seen it. I've been to my share of funerals, I guess you could say. She was also my last living grandmother. So that definitely factored into how I felt, among other things. But it was on Zoom, it was on Facebook Live, and there wasn't a lot of people who could come or unfortunately had to make the tough decision of not going because of flight risks or health risks, or just not being able to, because of the world that we're in right now. And I know that was extremely difficult for some of us. And I do feel very, very lucky that I was one of the grandkids who was able to be there in person, not just personally to me to be able to see her, but also more or less as a representative for the other grandkids too. So I feel very lucky in that way that I was able to do that, because I mean, I can't imagine myself not being there. And, we still had to take precautions, and the turnout was a lot lower, which is such a weird thing to say about a funeral. But I think for the person that she was, and to so many people, I think if we didn't have those restrictions, there would for sure be so many people who would have wanted to say goodbye. And as a side effect, I guess you could say, is what was not represented in people was definitely represented in flowers. I've never seen so many flowers show up to a funeral home by I don't even know. She was part of a lot of organizations. She lived in Texas. She lived in California a lot, or for part of her life. And she was kind of a world woman, world traveler, I think, and such a gregarious person. So it doesn't surprise me at all that so many people wanted to give and so many people wanted to show up in that way. So I did feel very overwhelmed in that, even though there weren't people there to really be there, it was symbolically present in another way. So it's really just such a testament to who she is as a person, or who I felt like I saw her as a grandma and as a woman and a mom and a neighbor. She knew everyone, and everyone knew her for some reason. And I have a lot of memories of just random people coming up to her, or random people from my church asking how she's been, and just thinking, how do you know her? But it's because she would talk to anyone and give off such a loving spirit that people who walked away from that conversation with her, would remember her. She was a remarkable person. She was small, but that doesn't by any means take away from how giving she was, or how loving she was to anyone that she met, and how strong she was. Because in addition to being a mom of 10, she was also a single mom for a lot of that. And that's crazy to me. Now, she wasn't a single mom for 10 a lot of the times, but because some of our uncles passed away. But just thinking about being a single mom is incredible, and still having a large number of kids to take care of is incredible. And I never really thought about asking her how she did it, or like what got her through it, or a lot of looking back, I know I didn't ask a lot of questions, and it wasn't just because of a language barrier, but it was also because I just didn't know how important those things for me to know were at the time. So yeah, she was so impressive for being such a strong woman who lost her husband very early on, and still, being so giving and making sure that everyone was taken care of, and being so faithful, even though I feel like she had reasons not to be. So I admire her in that way, even though I will never understand why she always had to have 3 or 4 rosaries on her neck. I admired her nonetheless. But yeah, she was not just a mother of 10 or single mom, but I think that made her very independent and kind of a hustler. And also, she didn't know a ton of English. So that's also really impressive of how she kind of just got around America and also got around traveling, because she has flown, internationally. And I don't know how she did it. I think I know she knew how to say thank you, and hello. But beyond that, I don't have any recollection of my grandma really speaking English. So, for her being in America for that long, I think is just tremendous and impressive that she got away with that essentially with not learning English a lot. Um, and also, I feel lucky that I learned Vietnamese so that I could talk to her. Because that would have added a whole layer of complexity of how I would talk to my grandma if she didn't know how to speak English and I didn't know how to speak Vietnamese. So I feel lucky in many ways that that there were gaps that we could bridge, not just with language and being able to learn Vietnamese, but also um, she was a constant visitor, so we always got to see her, and she kind of raised us when we were first born. Um, was kind of our, caregiver when my brother and I were very little, and so um, we did get to spend a lot of time with her overall. And when she traveled or when we saw her, and she was kind of a traveling grandma, I think. She still had like her home base, but I think she wasn't afraid to hop on a plane and make those rounds and like really see anyone. And I think that's really courageous, not just because she was this small Asian woman, but who wants to get on a plane that often? Maybe we do now these days since we haven't been on a plane. But I just looking back is like I was really lucky to be able to see her as much as I did, even when she didn't live in Texas and when she lived in California. So, yeah, I just feel, I guess, even though it brings me great heartbreak to see her leave this world, it really makes me think about how lucky we all are, or anyone who's talked to her or can call her grandma or can call her mom. I think we all realize how lucky we are to have someone like her in our life, and how she's lived such a grand life and how she's touched and cared about so many people and loved so deeply. And hopefully that inspires us to lead the life that she lived. Sometimes I don't feel that way, but I think she's definitely an inspiration to me in how to treat other people and to be independent and to also write a lot of letters, because she is an avid letter writer, something that I always remember. And to be not afraid of traveling and to garden. She was also a great gardener. She's a lot of things, you guys. I don't know how to explain it. I hope that you have someone in your life, or that you find someone in your life like this, or that you could say, oh, that's my grandma, or oh, that's my aunt. Because I feel really lucky. And if not, then maybe this is the time to ask those questions of your grandparents or your aunts, your uncles, your moms, your mom, your dad. Because I think I could have uncovered and learned so much more if I had known that. And fortunately, I have a lot of family who may have the answers to these questions that I have about her. But I think it makes a special connection when you can. So that would be one of my takeaways, is that I wish I asked more, and I wish I knew more. But I think what I have, my memory of her, is very similar to a lot of the other grandkids, I hope. And that we remember her in the ways that she has taught us, in, when we do garden, or when we do write a letter, or when we do cook, and the things that remind us of her. So yeah, I wanted to take this time to kind of get it all out there. Even though it's very hard to do so sometimes. And I feel very vulnerable right now, because it's a thing. It's a scary thing to talk about. And also it's just like really weird. This is kind of my first death where I was like working. So like how it was hard. So I just wanted to also put that out there, that if you are experiencing a death or a loss, please do try to recognize what you need and convey that to your supervisor or a teammate or someone that you feel comfortable with, because I found it very difficult and I didn't know what I needed at the time. But I feel very lucky that I had support and that I had have a very understanding leader who wanted to give me the time that I needed to really digest everything. So I just also wanted to put that out there because that was something that I remembered looking or going through is, man, it's weird when you experience death when you're full-time working. It's weird when you're not like in school, because I feel like in school it's, oh, I'm just going to be absent, or, oh, I'm like going to go to the counselor, or like there was less responsibility, I think, from what I remember. Because when I lost my other grandmother, I was in high school. So it's definitely different. So that would be my, I guess, piece of advice. And hopefully also for myself, maybe down the line, if I have to go through this again, and it's inevitable, so we will, just to remember that you can take that time and just to be very explicit and clear of what you're going through and how you're feeling and what would be helpful, because I think it's so hard for the other person who is your leader or your teammate to be there for you, because I don't think we know how to do that, and everyone is different and they want to make you feel better or like be there for you, but I think you know what you need. So just be very clear with that is what I will say to you and also to myself. So yeah, I would rate this experience of losing my grandmother. Ooh, I mean, that's a tough one. I didn't feel great about it for a long time, and sometimes I still don't. So I don't know. It was really tough. I don't think it was like the end of the world because she was 99, you know? So I want to say it's like a 4. It was really, really tough. Or maybe a 3. I'm like going back on my word now. A 3 or a 4, because it was really hard, and going through it while you're working and also through this pandemic, it was really challenging, and not being able to see your family, because, it's one of those major events that would bring family together, was also really hard. But there were some good parts out of it, like a cousin Zoom that I loved doing. And also just for me being able to say goodbye. So, and being there for my mom and for my parents and for the people who were there. So, yeah, I hope, I hope this was insightful or helpful, or, I don't know. I just really wanted to say something about her because she is missed. So, thanks for being here, and I will see you guys next time.